Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is the Talamanca Review. My evening podcast has become synchronized with lighting and smoking a stogie, which I have to give up soon. But I sure do like them. Oh, my number one fan wants to hear the podcast. Hang on. Apologies. Oh, he's going to sleep right where I meditate, sucking up all my energy. He's not stupid. Um, yeah, what was I saying? I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is the Talamanca Review. It's Wednesday, the 14th of January, 8:51 p.m. And I have a number of things on my mind. We'll see how they come out. So, the first is a rhetorical question, and it's rhetorical simply because you can't respond. Because you're not here and you're not on a call with me. I'm just asking you. And when you ask a rhetorical question through a podcast, I'm asking you to contemplate something. If you want to literally answer it, you can put a comment in Substack or YouTube. Am I the only one who can't go on social media now without getting angry within 5 minutes? I almost have to give up social media now. I mean, other than my podcast, Substack, the podcasts that I like to listen to, which are fewer and fewer these days. I like Tucker Carlson. I don't agree with everything he says, but I don't know. There's something just likable about the guy. Rabbi Shmuley would like to see him run over by a steamroller, as would a lot of other people. Boy, when those Jews make you an enemy, it's like to the death. Death of your career, bankrupt you, destroy your business. It's fighting with a Jew is like getting a divorce. It's a very feminine energy. Minus the IDF and Mossad. I mean, those dudes are killers, straight up killers. But the way they fight in social media and stuff, I mean, am I wrong? It's extremely feminine, isn't it? Right? I'm going to take everything you have. Yeah, that's what my ex wife said. But it's difficult for me to watch social media now. I'm weaning. Well, well done YouTube documentaries. I don't consider that social media. Um, I'm talking about like the hardcore stuff, like Facebook and X, especially X. I don't know what they're doing with those algorithms, but it's like a purge night algorithm referencing that series of movies. I've never seen one. I just know what they're about. Well, that's what X is like. It gets you into a purge night mentality where you just want to leave the house with a baseball bat with nails in it. It's like Escape from New York and Escape from LA and Planet of the Apes and everything all in one. Every horror. It seems to capture every human indecency, specifically X, more than any other platform. Elon's platform. My Instagram is, I don't know, I call that the vanity social media, right? It's the place that people like Andrew Tate go to show off their Bugatti. or hot-looking 21-year-old women go to show off their breasts. The vanity social media. Facebook is still a way to keep in touch with friends and everything. And it's interesting how all these social media platforms now, I don't know, I think X too, I'm not sure, but Instagram and Facebook, anybody you're friends with now, I mean, that's a de facto phone. You can call them from your cell phone. They have video calling just like Skype or anything else. It's amazing when you think about it, the irony of it. There have been never in the history of our civilization, human civilization, not just Western civilization, but never in the history of civilization that we know about, which we know about, has there been more means of communication. And never in history has there been more miscommunication, more misunderstanding, more mistrust, more vitriol, more profanity, more murderous impulses, more diabolical and violent lusts on the part of men and women. Huh. I'm glad I live in the rainforest. That's all I can say. My my nephews, Nene and Jekyll, got suspended from high school. They kicked the shit out of some guy. And I was asked to speak to them because I trained them a little bit. Not much. I mean, I haven't hung a heavy. Everybody wants me to train them, right? I'm a good fight trainer. I'm old now for fighting. 5-year-old girl could probably beat me up now, but I do know how to fight. I know how to box. I know how to kick. I know Muay Thai and all that stuff. I know how to teach someone to take care of themselves on the street. But I've always been scared to teach these guys too much. Brandon and I, we've just taught them we have punching mitts up here. You hold them in your hand, they punch your hand like a trainer. And I've probably spent less than 100 hours with them, but boy, do they maximize what they've learned. They cracked this poor kid's rib. Um, but it's one of my projects this year. I want to get a gym built with a roof and have 3 or 4 heavy bags and really train up my nephews. I believe in being a man. I think a man has to know how to fight. That's just the way I think. I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I could be. But I asked them, I said, Nene Jekyll, why would you beat a kid up at school? And this is what they told me. Oh, it broke my heart. I almost cried. They said he was picking on and physically abusing a mentally retarded student at the high school. And I said, what kind of piece of shit would do that? And they told me he's the president of the high school, the student union. And they tuned him up good. And I just thought to myself, man, those boys have good hearts, my nephews. How those things are connected in this podcast are just simply that, my two nephews were that's what you see on X now. Somebody getting tuned up and knocked out on the street outside a London pub or something. That's why it jumped into my mind. But there's no doubt in my mind that this social media is doing something to people, especially people who don't ground, especially people who don't have spiritual practice or religious discipline. This world is just chewing people up. There are certain kinds of other disciplines that are not related to internal development or connection with the divine that can keep you sane, focused, and balanced. Extreme career motivation would keep your mind out of the gutter. Going through med school or starting a business and working 14 hours a day. There's ways to stay out of it, but I think people just have so much free time now. And I think to myself, this is some kind of weird foreshadowing of universal basic income, you know? And I get these images of a Judge Dredd future. Crazy. I think the main thing that's going on with people now, Westerners, is they can't see reality. And I mean that literally. They just can no longer see reality. Um, I hate to say this, but the West is more due for a realignment with reality than a 45-year-old man who's 60 pounds overweight with two or three back discs out of place going to the chiropractor. I mean, we're so out of balance now, it isn't funny. And it's a cumulative thing at this point. It's a whole bunch of things coming together. First of all, you start to lose touch with reality the further you get away from nature. Okay, now that doesn't mean that you're absolutely 100% going to lose touch with reality if you spend your life in New York City. But key to keeping your reality would be maintaining a cycle and a rhythm to your life that stays in tune with nature. Getting a couple of hours sleep before midnight. Every hour of sleep you get before midnight is worth 2 hours after midnight. So I've heard. You know, going to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock, getting up at 4:35, going to the gym, going to the office. You're you're following nature in a sense. Everything is a mimicry of nature. I've talked about this before. The bills we pay are monthly, which is lunar. So at the end of every lunar cycle, every 28 days, you've got to pay for all the services you use. Seems natural. It's they do that so it blends into our consciousness as natural. Very feminine cycle, that one, the 28-day cycle. A lot of our cycles follow women, and women are much more connected or much more an immediate expression of nature than men are. Men are more celestial. Our minds go off to other places, go to other dimensions, calculus, and things like this. But the cognitive dissonance is at a fever pitch now. And I don't know how it's going to get solved. You know, Scott Adams died, the guy who did the Dilbert cartoon. There's all these crazy leftists on social media saying he was a racist. He exhibited no signs of racism his whole life. But after the George Floyd stuff and all the craziness and all the black on white attacks in the United States, he started talking about it. And he said, I don't think this can be repaired. White people need to get away from black people. I'm going to do a very honest podcast tonight. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I have nothing to lose. So why not do it? By and large, and when I say by and large, I don't mean in totality. Okay? I do not mean in totality, but by and large, black people in North America survive because white culture exists. They're fundamentally parasitic. That's an aggregate observation. And it's based on statistics for welfare, maternal support for single mothers, all of these sorts of things. Now, there are historical factors that you could say play into that. Epigenetic trauma is real. The epigenetic trauma of slavery is real. No doubt about it. But for those of you who've read The Devil in Us and you know, in short form, my life story, trauma needs to be assimilated. Trauma needs to be overcome. Trauma needs to be dispelled. And you can dispel any form of trauma. You have to be spiritually disciplined, but you can do it. And what I'm saying here is there's only so much leeway I'm going to give to the trauma of slavery. Now, I'm probably the best traveled person any of you know. Very few people are better traveled than I am. There's people who pop in all over the place, like, you know, they'll do a 3-week trip every year, and their photo album will have Egypt and Big Ben in London, and they've been all over the world. But when I say well traveled, I mean literally inserted into a foreign culture and living there for more than a year or two. I've done it I've lived in Canada, the United States, Taiwan, and Costa Rica. And then all over Canada as well, it's so big and the cultures are so different, just like the United States. The west coast of Canada is a completely different country, the mindset, everything. Vancouver is completely different than Toronto. I lived in Vancouver as well for a couple years. Toronto, my birth culture is a capital city in a G7 country, which in and of itself is a unique cultural experience, to be born in the belly of the beast. And I can tell you, based on my travels, that the enmity with black people is not black and white. That's nonsense. Everywhere black people go, where they're not from, they're not liked. I'm not trying to be racist. I'm not trying to be offensive. And there's reasons I'm talking about these things tonight. And I'll get into the reasons later on in the podcast. Let me set up the podcast first. Latinos have the thinnest of tolerances for blacks. White people are very polite about black culture. Don't say this word, don't say that word, be very careful around them. They're very prideful. Try to avoid them. Smile. Latinos, no. If 3 Latino guys are walking down the street and some black guy melts off, they will kick the living shit out of them. Right? And black people are afraid of Latinos in Costa Rica. The blacks in Costa Rica, the black culture in Costa Rica is very submissive. It's like the United States in like 1910. Yes, yes. And I'm not saying that's good. And remember, I've said on my podcast before, and I'm not taking back anything I said on my podcast before. I believe in the near future, in the next 100 years or so, there's going to be a tremendous black renaissance. And there's an incredible reserve of genius in the Black culture. I know. I've seen it spiritually. I've been shown it. Black culture was the first to civilize. Spike Lee's not being ethnocentric, and neither are other Black historians, or Michael Tellinger, who gets it right as well. Adam's calendar, the stone circles in Africa. Civilization began in Africa. They were the first to civilize. They were the first to discover architecture, all of these things, okay? In the cycle we're in, well, not in the cycle we're in now, but even preceding Atlantis, this would go back about 100,000 years. They had a highly advanced civilization and they were empirical. Blacks ran the world. This is karmic history. This is Akashic record history. I didn't see it in a meditation per se, but I've encountered it in my readings over the years from various teachers and various systems. And what brought the Black Empire down was they got too into black magic. And I don't know who here needs to hear this. I don't know why I constantly repeat this on the Talamanca Review. Black magic is about the worst karma you can generate for yourself. It's horrible because karma will reciprocate what you did, not at the level of detail, but the level of impact. So if you use black magic to kill somebody, then you're going to come into a lifetime where you will be killed. There will be suspicion around your death. Everyone who loves you will suffer. And your bloodline will suffer. And nobody will know what happened because that's the thing about the karma. The person who was affected by the black magic probably never knew what happened to them. And so the karma must fit that pattern. You must have the same thing happen to you. Karma's not tit for tat. It's not like if I step on your toe, you're gonna step on my toe in a future life. It's not that equal. The equality is at the energetic and the effect level. So if you have karma from the Roman era, and you were let's say an aide to a Roman senator, and you abused your power, and you destroyed somebody's life and took their farm. Well, in the 21st century, that may equate to you becoming a billionaire and having it all taken away in a lawsuit or something, which is completely unfair, right? The lawsuit is unfair, but it happens anyways, just like the guy who lost his farm in 50 BC, just on the outskirts of Rome. It was unfair that the senator's aide stole his farm. And so the farm obviously wasn't worth $1 billion, but in context of that time, it represented that level of status and wealth. So that equality has to carry forward. But I'm on my last nerve with black people. And maybe I should just stop watching social media. That would probably solve all my problems, actually. But I think there's also an aspect to that where social media is legitimately a form of news now. And so to be a responsible person, you have to be aware of the world you live in and you have to consume a modicum of news. And so I do. And one of the things that struck me was the unbelievable arrogance and stupidity of black people. And I mean, it's across the board. And it's not 100%. You still got your Thomas Sowells, He's a black academic who's bang on, by the way. By the way, it's his theory that the American Negro, or what you call NIGGR, was the consequence of black people interacting with Scottish people in the South of the United States. That sounds comical when I say it out loud, but you got to read his book on it or watch a YouTube video on it. And I kind of believe him. Um, there's a lot of similarities between Glasgow and Harlem. I'll tell you that right now. But I'm on my last nerve with black people. I cannot believe what I'm hearing, you know? And it's not that I want them to lose. I actually want them to win their fight for social justice, and I want them to begin their renaissance, which will benefit the whole world. I want them to succeed. But I can't help them. You can't help people. They got to do it on their own, or otherwise what they achieve is not real. It's affirmative action, and you'll never have any real pride. Unless you earn something in life, you're never going to have any real pride. You're going to be daddy's boy. You're going to be Donald Trump, the kid who got 400 million to start a business with from his daddy, right? You're never going to escape that. And Trump hasn't escaped it. And so you got to earn it on your own. So I can't help them. Nobody can help them. They're on their own. But they got to do it. Now, silently on the sidelines, I'm cheering them on. But sometimes the stupidity is so bad, it's just like, oh my God, why can't the black community get together and realize this person's a liability? I mean, look at the way white people operate. Look at the way Chinese people operate. When somebody starts acting like a goof in the Politburo in Beijing, which has 1,500, 2,500 members, maybe more, I'd have to look it up. One of the largest national congresses in the world is the CCP's central board in Beijing, capital city. When somebody starts screwing up in there, they just get rid of them. They fire them and they just throw them out on the street. The same thing with white people. When white people get out of line, other white people correct them. And what that shows the world is that there's no racial unity here. We're actually trying to achieve a standard that's universal. And I think we have tried really hard. I think white people have tried harder than anybody else to create a culture that other people can feel comfortable in. White Europeans, the scourge of the earth, if you listen to academe and leftist historians and leftist political voices now. And it's completely upside down. It's completely inverted. Nobody's done more than us. And remember, we're not responsible for what the British or the Dutch East India Company did. Okay? Don't let them stick that on you. Did your great, 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 great grandfather work for the British East India Company? Mine were Scottish farmers. So don't let them stick that on you. Don't let them stick colonialism on you. I've thought long and hard about the effect of Europeans coming to North America. I wrote a book about it. It's called God is an Economist. My character Cobb, the Mohawk Indian, tells you my feelings about it. But I am not eating this shit sandwich that's going around, that white people are evil. I'm just not buying it. I'm not taking it, and I'm not going to be silent about it. At least not tonight. It'll probably leave my mind an hour after the podcast. But it's reaching epic proportions now, and the only way it's going to get better is other black people have to step in and check the stupid and entitled, and to be honest, the white black people. Okay? You think after 4 or 5 years or six years, however long it's been, Ilhan Omar? Let me just check. This is a good Google Gemini question. Let me check this out. How long as the governor of How long has Congresswoman Ilhan Omar in Minnesota been in federal government? It can't doesn't know her name. Being in government. This will be interesting. I'm curious because I can't remember a time she wasn't in politics. 7 years. U.S. House of Representatives, Minnesota, 5th District. She has served in Congress for 7 years. She first assumed office on January 3rd, 2019, and is currently serving in her fourth term, the 119th Congress. Okay. She's a multimillionaire now. I'll ask. What is her net worth? They don't give it exactly, but her net worth is estimated between 6 and 30 million. Okay. Um, so the point I'm making is she's not black anymore. You can't live that life for 6 years and stay black. Stay hungry, stay angry, stay whatever. She's white now. So she's conning the people who believe in her. Okay? And everybody does this. It's not just Ilhan Omar. Donald Trump's doing it to Christian America. He's going to fuck them over royally with the Habadniks, but he pretends to be Christian. Everybody is getting conned now, right? And we need the Ilhan Omar of 2019 to recognize this. We need to come together if we're going to defeat what the real enemy is. But it's just not happening. So I was watching her being interviewed by a journalist walking down the hall of a government building in Washington. I think it was Washington. It might have been. No, she's not in the state legislature. It wouldn't have been in Minnesota. And this woman's asking her these questions, and the arrogance is unbelievable. The first question is, what do you have to say about the $9 billion in fraud? And the response from Ilhan is, oh, you're one of them. You know? Then this kid who went around to the daycares in Minnesota, and just like him and a friend, YouTube journalist, and he became famous overnight, Nick Shirley. Very interesting young man. Ilhan Omar and Waltz, the governor of Minnesota, habitually in press conferences refer to him as a white supremacist and a MAGA influencer. So, when did you're a white supremacist become a defense for I stole $9 billion in my 200,000 person Somali community? And it's way more than 9 billion. By the time this is all tallied up, it'll probably be 25, 30 billion over 4, 5, 6 years. An enormous amount of money. Enormous amount of money. 200,000 citizens of one state, Minnesota, operating as an organized criminal cartel specializing in fraud and creating communities so toxic and dangerous to people who are not Somali that verifiers and certifiers and government officials from various departments like the Treasury, who might go around and verify that the daycares are up and running, won't even go into the neighborhoods because they're afraid. That's gangsterism. How is calling that out white supremacy? Doesn't make any sense. None of this stuff makes any sense anymore. And the root of it all is, of course, the Jews. Because their victim bullshit that they've been doing for 80 years on their alleged Holocaust and a bad white man and the deliberate intent to destroy Edom, which is the extension of Rome 2,000 years later, and they are trying to destroy it. Don't kid yourself. You think this guy, Rabbi Shmuley, is a friend of Christians in America? It is his sworn duty to the Talmud to destroy us. And that duty in his corrupted mind is a duty to God. And people just can't put this stuff together, you know? Now, some of the things I'm saying tonight may sound harsh. Some of you may think I sound racist. Well, let me tell you one of the reasons I'm doing it. I've had a premonition. I've had a foreshadowing. I've had a revelation about what's coming if this doesn't change. And I don't want to see it happen. I don't want to see my black brothers and sisters suffer this fate. You know this thing that happened in El Salvador? I've spoken about it a number of times on my podcast. El Salvador, even 5 years ago, 6 years ago, had a murder rate so high it was unheard of for any country that was not in an active war, civil, or with a neighboring country, like two African countries or an internal civil war. It was the most dangerous country in the world. And then Bukele came into power. And that also was a Christian nationalist movement as well, although I believe he's Muslim. But he worked with the Christians. And I don't know if you've seen any of his interviews. He did a wonderful interview with Tucker Carlson. And Tucker said, "What were you battling?" He said it was Satanism. And Tucker kind of scoffed. This was before Tucker's demonic attack, by the way. And Tucker sort of scoffed. And Nikolai Bukele looked him in the eye and he said, "We were finding sacrificed babies, pentagrams on the ground. We were hearing it in interrogations. Why did you kill this person? We sacrificed it to the beast." Where are these simpletons operating with grade 6 educations learning Satanism? Satanism is complicated, by the way. It's not an easy religion to practice. It's not anarchy. It's not the same thing as anarchy. It's not reckless self-indulgence. Aleister Crowley's "do as thou wilt is the whole of the law" doesn't really capture it. Satanism is a very structured religion. The rituals are very structured, very precise. There's an astrology to them. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, who in the fuck taught these morons Satanism? who taught it to them? You know, some bored MS-13 lieutenant just go to the library one day. Satanism. Go to his local chief and say, "Hey, I think we should adopt this as the gang's religion." "Oh, that looks good. We'll bring it up at our next committee meeting, Manuel." How the fuck does it even get started? Do you ever think about this stuff? Well, part of the answer is the indigenous dark religions that are already in Latin America, like Santeria, Palo Mayombe, Voodoo. There's a lot of blood magic religions here. So that would be a starting point. And I guess, there's some Tata out there, voodoo, a Tata is somebody who is a leader of a house. A house is a group of practitioners or warlocks, whatever you want to call them, in Palo Mayombe. And some Tata said to his house one day, we should we should begin counseling the gangs. We should do remote viewing for their crimes, and we should make an alliance with these people because they're going to make us a lot of money. And that's probably how it spread. Satanism is rampant in Mexico. You go back to that, probably the best TV show of the last 30 years, Breaking Bad, in my opinion. Best season TV show, the best standalone season of TV is True Detective Season 1 in 2014. But you got those two crazy twins that work for the cartel, if you remember the TV series. And when they introduce them, it's just before they're leaving Mexico to come to America to kill Walter White. And they stop at a Santeria temple and make their offerings. And so, they just show that stuff. Mind-boggling. So I don't know how we get out of this. I really don't. I think one of the things though is we have to talk honestly about it. And the level of negativity in the world now is mind-boggling. I mean, God forbid you die and you're a little bit famous now. I've never seen so much disrespect for the dead in my life. Fuck. With Charlie Kirk, Rob Reiner, who I don't agree with him politically, but that dude was absolutely hilarious. You know? And now Scott Adams of the Dilbert cartoon. Now I'm going to be very clear here. No side of this debate is clearly right. Okay? 100% right. This is a gray area issue, what's going on in the world. There are grievances on the left which are legitimate, but they don't even know what they are. They're so fucking stupid. It's unbelievable. I mean, if I were to lead the left, I'd be a much better leader. If I had the power and I had the sway and I could win people over, I would force change in financial law. That's what I'd do. I'd force taxes on corporations that trade only money and stocks. If you make your living in money and you don't physically produce anything, you should have an income tax rate that's 3 times higher than anybody else. That's just my feeling about it. If you work on Wall Street, your income tax rate should be like 65, 70%. You're still going to make $3 million a year. The other $7 million from the $10 million you earned in trades goes to the government. What's wrong with that? You can't live on $3 million a year? I think companies and hedge funds and things like this that work in the futures market and trade off of present day, which means that you're betting on something to fail. The whole capital system was created to invest in things that you want to help grow because you believe in them. But money has completely corrupted our markets. It's completely corrupted our markets. And nobody talks about this because they're too fucking stupid. Because not many people really understand economics. That hedge fund manager who wrote The Great Taking, he did the world a favor. He spoon-fed information to people that they never would have figured out on their own. How many people do you know who sit around and read the Uniform Commercial Code or get briefed on it on a Monday morning after a summer break when they go back to the trading office and they say, okay, just to let everybody know, the UCC has changed. How this affects us. We can no longer collateralize this kind of equity with this kind of equity. So they learn about it because they have to learn about it because it applies to the work they do. But none of them go, holy shit, this is really bad for society in general. I should let people know about this. Because when you got yours, you don't give a shit about anyone else. And this is what this fucked up money system has done to all of us. It's turned all of us into monsters. Everybody. Nobody makes anything anymore. Nothing. If making something is putting your heart and soul into it and making it the very best it can be, I can honestly say nobody makes anything anymore. You know what people make now? They make money. Oh, but Bruce, General Motors makes cars. No, they don't. They make money. You show me all their corporate board meetings, all the minutes of those meetings, and I will show you at least 500 instances a year where they compromised the integrity of their product to make more money. Ergo, they cut corners. And everybody's fucking doing it. And this whole money thing is this crazy fucking Jew thing that started with the Bank of England. And people are starting to figure it out. And I don't want to see the Jews get massacred. Let me go, which segues me back to what I did not finish about my premonition. I went to Bukele. I went to El Salvador. Let me finish that narrative. So Bukele came in and he created an elite council, a security council. He declared martial law and they tore that country apart. If you had MS-13 gang tattoos on your forehead, you got thrown into CCOT, which is hell on earth, man. That's like Devil's Island from Papillon without the ocean around it. That's like Alcatraz without the ocean around it. Okay? Let me make something abundantly clear. It is a privilege to live in a world where so many people have contributed to the advancement of the human race. Where we don't have to wake up every day and wonder where our food's coming from. Where everything has been made convenient for us and we can focus on what we want our lives to be. Do you realize what an anomaly that is in the last 2,000 years? Nobody's got any gratitude for it. Do you think I I would have been able to write, 12 books in 1820? No. No, I'd be too fucking busy feeding pigs and repairing my thatch roof and walking here and there because there's no cars, taking care of my horses, my cattle, my pigs. It is a blessing to be alive in the early 21st century, and nobody sees it that way. Fraud, calling out billions, tens of billions of dollars in one state out of 50, out of a 50 state country, calling that out with evidence is now white supremacy, and nobody fucking calls these people on this. They don't belong here, you know? And you know why they don't belong here? Because they're not part of the continuity of generations that earned it. Ergo, they don't respect it. It's like lending your car to your friend. He doesn't respect your car, you know? He may return it with the same amount of gas it had in it when you loaned it to him. But if you have a good car, a Mustang or something, he's going to go, "Hey man, let's push this a little bit. This is a Mustang. Let's see what this can do." You know, maybe take a little rubber off the back tires just because he's never driven a Mustang before. He doesn't give a shit because he doesn't have to pay the $40,000 for the car. He doesn't have to pay the $900 a month lease or car payment. If you don't earn it, you don't respect it. This rule applies to everything. Marriage. You earn a good marriage by putting into it. And over time, you begin to reap those rewards, a familiarity with the other person, an intuitive sub-language you speak with each other, a complete understanding of each other, and a freer flow of real and true unconditional love. But you had to earn that. And once you have that, you're never going to be unfaithful because getting your rocks off doesn't compare to what you have and you don't want to lose it. So many people have come here and they live in our countries, Canada and the United States. states, and they have absolutely no gratitude, and they criticize things and shit on the country and call us white supremacists while they're living in a world they never in another 25 generations could have created for themselves. And if you tried to transport it to their country with engineers and money to invest in architects, it would get gobbled up by the warlords and they would not be able to replicate the distribution of wealth that makes Western society so great. And yet they still come here and they fucking criticize us. You know how grateful I am to this country, Costa Rica, to let me live here? Every fucking day I wake up, I feel it. I feel a debt to everybody here, my family, everybody. Thank you. You saved my life. I would have spiritually died, emotionally died, gone into perpetual rage had I been forced to live the remainder of my decades in Canada. This country saved me. I have gratitude for that. My son has gratitude for it. And I express that gratitude by investing in my community. I don't save that money for myself to buy a nice Ford F-150 pickup truck. I give it, I create projects for my bro. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Absolutely no gratitude. So it got so bad in El Salvador that Marisalva 13, MS-13, and the 18th Street Gang became a de facto government. They were collecting taxes on bodegas. A bodega is a convenience store. And these places in Latin America, they're not like 7-Elevens, they're privately owned. They might have 4 or 5 aisles of stuff. They might profit $400 or $500 a month. And the gangs are going in there and charging them whatever they're charging them a month for protection, which means give us money or we kill you and we rape your daughter. And this was going on for years. And the negativity, the Satanism and the dark magic, it just spread through the whole country. It was a living fucking hell. And one guy went in there with a team of people he could trust, and he turned it all around. And now leftist liberal communities, and Joe Biden himself said in his last term he was very concerned about human rights being violated in El Salvador. Shut the fuck up, Joe. Go live in one of the shittiest barrios for 6 months without Secret Service, just a white guy, old white guy walking around there, and in 3 days you'll fly back home and say, nuke the fucking place. But because he doesn't have to live there, he virtue signals his fucking human rights onto them. You know how many women were raped in El Salvador by these gangs? Forced into prostitution? The numbers are uncountable, in the tens of thousands. Have you figured out why I brought that example up yet? Can you make the connection? It's not that hard. You just have to think about it a little bit. It's what they're going to do in the United States. It's going to reach a point where they're just going to change the law. It's all going to be done legally. They're going to change the law, and they're going to go and arrest all these people. They're going to make them work in prisons. Prisons will no longer be run in such a way that there's an economic loss for the society. The prisons will be created so that the work done in the prisons equalizes the amount of money it takes to maintain the prison, to feed them, for the electricity, for the guards, for everything. And at some point, this is going to happen. It's not going to happen in Australia. It's not going to happen in Canada, but those countries are finished. They're finished. Once the white people are gone in leadership positions and these minority groups, what do you think they're going to do? You think they're gonna form collaborative and cooperative governments amongst Hong Kong Chinese in Vancouver and Sikh terrorists in the BC interior, and then the Hindus in Toronto, and then the black community? What do you think's going to happen to these countries? Let's say that China became a majority Chinese, Canada became a majority Chinese country, and they took over politics. Do you think they would maintain these liberal policies towards crime? They'd go about 80% back to reinstituting slavery. These black people who do the crimes and never work and are just a drag on society, the Chinese, if they took over Canada, would treat them like Falun Gong in China. But if you ask a black man today, what's the greatest evil in the world? It's the white man. And they're too fucking stupid to understand the only thing protecting them in this world at this point is the white man. Because everybody else would just chop them up into little pieces. The Indians don't have any fucking tolerance for this hip hop bullshit, gangster bullshit. They don't. Chinese don't. Russians don't. Nobody puts up with this shit other than guilty white Europeans. That's the title of tonight's podcast. Little fiery today. I don't know what got into me. The wife put a lot of hot peppers in my chicken tonight. I'll be doing the ring of fire on the toilet tomorrow, but that is my only excuse for why this was such a fiery podcast. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.